onegaishimasu. How nice to see you. Okay, I'm going to read for you this morning, number 19, Shokushu number 19, Willpower. The focused willpower penetrates even stone. This naturally arising state of mind silences even the storm and thunder. Where does this state of mind come from? The person who accomplishes important tasks understands this power from experience. When we calm the waves of our mind, from molecules to atoms to electrons, we experience our great willpower, which is universal willpower. So, very important. We experience our great willpower, which is universal willpower. So this morning, I selected the next of Toy Sensei's calendar quotes, which is, ego is character based upon false reasoning. Ego is character based upon false reasoning. So, the primary false reasoning arises because we imagine ourselves to be the agent of change or the agent of control in our lives. And that means, like, when we make a plan, we expect the plan, the outcome, to reflect accurately the plan we made. And it never does. It always changes. So we can affect the nature of change, but we can't actually change things directly. There has to be some mechanism of change that we work with. And until we learn to do that, we develop a lot of negative character traits, things like stubbornness, arrogance, self-diminishment, impatience. And we carry these with us. We develop them from when we're just tiny babies as we meet conflict in this world. And we develop them further until they become actual character traits for each of us. And those character traits then are negative and become stumbling blocks to our development. And when you think of them yourself, I'm sure you all know which of those, if not all of them, are our stumbling blocks. We each have individual ones, right? That are more powerful than other ones that operate in our lives. And wherever we go, they come with us. So whether we're sitting on the mat, meditating, or we're just come into the dojo and we're on the mat training, they are with us, and they are primarily controlling how we respond to challenge. That's the beauty of Aikido, is that we're constantly being asked to respond to challenge. So every time we do, those negative, misunderstood character traits come up. Of course, we think, well, we want to change those traits. We want to get rid of those things. But it's impossible to do it that way. We have to go back to the original misunderstanding. That's why Toy Sensei brings this up. Our original, false reasoning, which is that we are agents of control. And we have to shine the light of awareness on that original mistaken notion. And interestingly, when we do shine the light of awareness on that, when we do notice that, when we look deeply into that, we begin to become nothing else than agents of change. So that's how change takes place and how we can affect change. Not directly, by trying to work with the negative results of change, but going directly to the misunderstanding, the fundamental misunderstanding that we all began with when we came into these bodies. That's why Toy Sensei brings this up an important aspect of our training. Something to consider. Excuse me. Okay, let's begin with some deep breathing. Ego is a characteristic that arises out of false reasoning. This false reasoning is imagining that we are the agents, the primary, the exclusive agents of control in this universe. And as a result of realizing that that is not the case, instead of accepting that, we defend that position, that false position. And the defense is made up of and develops within us these characteristics, these negative characteristics like stubbornness and arrogance, greed, intolerance, impatience, self-diminishment, and so forth, etc., etc. And just imagine how much of our energy, how much of our attention is trapped, caught up in those avenues of defense that we are obsessed with, that control how we react to challenges in this life. And if that energy were released, Toi Sensei asked us in the beginning in the Shokushu I read, what is the source of that willpower? That's the one question that students are always asking me. How do I get up in the morning and sit? Where does the willpower come to train intensely? Not just sort of train, but really train to transform my life. And that's it right there in a nutshell. All that energy that you need, that each of us needs, to face our original false condition or claim, is wrapped up in the defense of that claim, in those negative characteristics. So, we're all in the same boat, folks. We're all engaged in this. And so if we want to be strong in willpower and headed toward freedom and liberation, then that's our task. And we all have the same task facing us. And that's the nature of Toi Sensei's teaching and the nature of our Aikido practice, is to, if we practice it this way, is to lead us to that freedom. Okay, so I'll bet you have some questions and concerns and comments about that. Please share any of that with us. Prakash, speak up.
Sensei, it seems that in most spiritual teachings, the ego gets a bad rap. And yet, if we hadn't developed a healthy functioning ego, we couldn't have survived. It's kind of portrayed as an adversary or an enemy or a mistake. So I'm wondering what your thoughts are about that.
Yeah, I think healthy and functioning is the key word there. Excuse me. So, the ego is a kind of an arbiter, the ego, that what we call. So Toi Sensei is really speaking about a negative aspect of this ego. And you're right, it's often portrayed as an arbiter, and we can't survive without it. It is actually the part of us that balances and enables us to develop socialization skills and, all of our, what we call in Aikido, all of our keiko development, all of our self-improvement development. That's what I'm talking about when I talk about going back to that original false assumption that we are the agent of control, and revealing that to be what it is. Then we begin to develop a much healthier and useful self. And you can call that ego or whatever you want, but it's the part of us that is able to function internationally with other people, interrelationally with other people, and not stumble and not harm others and not harm ourselves. So yeah, I think that's a really good point. And we don't want to lose track of that, but let me say that we often use that point to defend as a subtle defense for maintaining and defending against that original assumption that we are the arbiters of change, that we are the controlling element in our lives. Now, like, for instance, when I said, in order to develop willpower, we have to bring our light of awareness on this original error. And once we do, we suddenly see that we are creating change. But the mistake we make there is the ego jumps in and takes credit for that. But it was awareness itself. Presence itself gave us that ability to see, and that transformation takes place that way. So we need to give all of our attention, surrender all of our attention to awareness, noticing with a kind of noticing is not a very powerful word. We need such an intensity of this awareness that it transforms our consciousness, the way we see things. And that takes lots and lots of sitting. That's why Suzuki Sensei said, breathe, breathe, breathe. And I always say, sit, sit, sit. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Sensei.
Good, very good point. Someone else, please. I always say, don't be shy. Suzuki Sensei always taught us when you're in the dojo, sit in the front row. And when the teacher calls on somebody, jump up and be the one that gets up there and gets to operate with the sensei in front of the class. Because I'm telling you, that's where you learn the good stuff. When you put yourself out there like that, when you hang yourself out there in front of all the other students and have to perform with the sensei in front, that's where transformation takes place. But we all sit back and wait for someone else to do that, don't we? We're not the ones that jump forward and say, yes, I have a comment, or I have a question, or I want to get involved with you in this way. Don't be afraid. This is your opportunity right now. And in this particular way, it will never come again.
Good morning, Sensei.
Hello, Fincher.
Not to be following that wonderful comment, but I have a question about, when we sit and we're told, and this example is brought to us in Shokushu, that it's easy to feel unified, mind and body, when we're sitting or we're being, let's say if we're taking a key test. But then when we move, things change. And, I notice similarly in my day that when I start my day, I may be feeling unified, but when I go and move through my day, things revert back to these issues that you're addressing. I'm wondering, what is it in movement, in even whether on the mat or in your day, what is it that changes? Why is it easier to feel unified when we're sitting or we're silent? And what is it that kicks in when we move that reverts back to these issues that you're dealing with?
Yeah, good question. Well, when we're sitting or standing still, as Toy Sensei says.
Yes, taking a key test and then having to move with that.
It's very easy to be calm when we're still, because we're not facing our habitual defense of our ego. Every time that moves into action as soon as we interact with other people, or even interact with the world itself by moving around in it, bumping into things, having things not go the way we planned. I meant to move over here. That damn chair was in my way and I bumped into it. It's as simple as that. Everything starts snowballing on us as soon as we start moving around and are interacting with people and things. And all that our habitual reactivity arises then. So that's why sitting is a chance to lessen the degree of that. It's not that there's that we never face any conflict or any difficulty in sitting. We do. But it's greatly diminished. It's very quiet. There's no one else involved. And we have the greatest opportunity to celebrate. Do you know? Yeah, so that's a whole nother story that I was going to go into. I won't do that. It's very simple. We are creatures of habit, and the habit is formed of an error in judgment. And until we face, examine, and reveal to ourselves convincingly the error of that judgment, that we can control what happens in our universe, these things will not begin to dissolve. These reactivity patterns will not begin to dissolve, and we will not release the kind of energy it takes to go through a day without constantly falling into reactivity. It takes power to do that, and the power is the willpower that Toy Sensei talks about. And he says it comes from experience. So it means training. That means training. That means practice, practice, practice. And as you know, little by little by little, the subconscious mind changes. And the energy wrapped up in those negative character attributes is released into our field of experience. And we're able to use that to be free of that reactivity, to celebrate that freedom, moment to moment to moment.
Thank you, Sensei.
Okay, thank you.
Sensei, I have a question too. I'm Christel from Germany.
Yes, hello, Christel.
Yes, last week we had the 20 years jubileum seminar, and I talked to Olaf Sensei, and we are talking about feeling the union with the universe, and he said to me that maybe this feeling issue is in Germany maybe to be aware of or translated. And so in my feeling one with the universe, I don't get feelings like love and hate and so this kind of feelings, but I feel it. And can you say something about the vocabulary about to feel, what it is in English? Does it have a broader meaning, or why do you say, or Toy Sensei say feeling? What he wants to express. This is my question.
Thank you. I think I agree with your teacher, Olaf Sensei. that in English we really mean when we're talking about this kind of feeling. It's not an emotion. It's a perception. It's an awareness of a condition that is a natural condition within us, that because we are so distracted by and so busy defending this negative position we've taken, which presents all these negative characteristics, because those things keep us so busy trying to catch up with those and defend against those, that we don't even notice, are not even aware of this feeling or this perception, this state of being, which Toi Sensei calls mind-body unification. And this state of being, excuse me, then when we just dwell in this, rest in this state of being, which is basically meditation, just celebrate this condition. When we're able to allow ourselves patiently and gratefully to just rest in this, then this light of awareness begins to dissolve all that negativity.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good question. Oh my goodness. Okay, it's 8 o'clock. All right. Well, thank you very much. I enjoyed that this morning. Gives us a lot of work to do, and I hope some insight into how we do that work. Thank you very much. どうもありがとうございました。